3D storytelling, it helps to have certainly a figurative vehicle, but here we have a figurative and literary vehicle to move through space and time, and it's the spaceship of the imagination. It's designed to not only move in space, and that's visible through the panoramic portals, but if we want to go into the future, that view opens up above, and then we go to wherever the storytelling requires. If we want to go into the past, the central circle below my feet opens up, and we travel into the past. And that ship expresses anything that I'm thinking at the moment. So there are no buttons. It's just I'm talking to you about the past. The past appears right when I need it to be, right where we need to go, and that allows us a vehicle it allows you a place to return, to transition from one place to another, from one time to another. And yeah, that's cool, I want one. Yeah.
Seth MacFarlane had the brilliant notion to, there are stories being told about the heroes of science. You know, the show is not only about our place in the universe, but how we got to know the things that we know. So like the original series, there are stories about scientists, but instead of doing them as live action, we're doing them with kind of what we think is really cool, kind of graphic novel-y animation that Seth's animation studio is doing for us.
What Cosmos does, especially given the access to the methods and tools of modern storytelling, not only the animations, but the special effects and the visualizations and the fact that the production team is partly assembled from people who professionally make movies. So these are people who know how to tell stories on a big screen, are now brought to bear on telling a story of the universe itself and our place within it. And so this is the right combination of the right people at the right time to get everything back on track.
Seek out projects that will help you, say whatever you're trying to say or explore whatever idea. I've been very lucky to work on shows like Star Trek that explored ideas. I feel like I've just been very lucky in that regard. I also feel like the past 20 years I've spent doing science fiction has prepared me for this moment to do actual science in a way that has a visceral, immersive impact and will hopefully be, entertaining is the wrong word, but be an experience in the same way that the original Cosmos was.
It always amazes me that you have these like $200 million movie budgets, and nobody hires a grad student to check the script to see if the science is right. The reality of nature is so fertile with ideas and great stories. And so if you get the science right, there's a kind of, it's like making in special effects, making the water move the way water moves. There's a truth there, and when you dip into the truth of nature, when it's rooted in nature, it's going to be that much more powerful. So I think, just actually engaging scientists in the process of storytelling is a really good idea.
Do you feel that the world is ready for this, or is there an element in which you had to simplify the message? Is there, to use the unpleasant phrase, is there any dumbing down that's happened in this, or are you prepared to actually make the audience work a little bit to keep up? How do you deal with these kind of concepts, this level of science?
Carl Sagan taught me respect for the audience, for the public, and that there's no need to dumb anything down. Just speak clearly. Just use the words that we all use to depict the grandeur of nature. So Cosmos, the original series and this series are exactly on the same level, which is we speak to everyone, and there are different ways to experience it, but there's no limitation, there's no exclusion. The information that we're wanting to share with the world belongs to all of us. And so I think that this Cosmos is as accessible as the first one and contains information, at times arcane, at other times, less complicated, but it's for everyone.
I spend, I would say, a disproportionate amount of my brain energy exploring how people think and what they think and what led them to think the way they think, so that when I communicate, when I speak, I'm actually communicating. But true communication is understanding how people think, what confuses them, what can untangle the knots that may exist in their head. So, especially in climate science, there are people that don't understand what they're talking about, yet think they do. You need to understand why they think they do, why they don't know what they're talking about, and navigate that. And if you don't navigate it, you're just there talking, and you're this surface for them to repaint in whatever way they want, because that's your opinion and they have their opinion. So communication, it's often, most of the job is in the deliverer of the message. I watched the Super Bowl because everybody else is watching the Super Bowl. So I was there watching the Super Bowl, okay, and I tweeted some things like, do you know that a 50-yard field goal kick is deflected by 1/4 of an inch because of Earth's rotation and the Coriolis force, right? I tweeted that. So people say, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. The second half, the lights went out in the stadium. And I'm saying, okay, I have physics background. Is there a tweet I can say about the lights?
The next possession, the 49ers have 2 plays into it.
Turn out
the lights go out.
Somebody put a plug and light a can.
35-minute power outage delay.
And I said, okay, the average human radiates the equivalent of about 100 watts of energy, like the 100-watt light bulb, okay? Mostly in the infrared. That's what I said. And Beyonce had just given her halftime dance, all right? So then I had a second tweet. I said, Beyonce probably radiates a little more than 100 watts. Perhaps 500 watts. But we'd have to do the experiment to be sure, right? For science. And so my Beyonce tweet, like to this day, is like one of the top 3 most retweeted tweets I've ever put out there. And because again, that was taking an explicit pop culture reference and making real science out of it.
Do the things we need to do to protect our environment and protect this planet for the life that follows us. And part of that is a sense of reality about nature and where we are, when we are, and who we are. And you can't do that without science. You don't get off this planet without science. You don't get anywhere. You don't see this vision of the universe and come to know what other galaxies and other parts of the universe are like without science. Science, the method of science, these are the keys to the kingdom. And I think we're ready to get going and to move forward.
I think when you study a topic and you're basically giving your life to a single field, a single topic, and just consider that what should attract you to this is not the prospect that one day you'll make a discovery. Of course, science, as it is communicated to the public, typically is through the lens of discovery. But in fact, science is a process. Science is what you do in the lab. Science is the wiring of your brain and how you look at the world because of that wiring. It's not the result, it's not just an answer, it is a process. And you need to learn to love the questions themselves. And when you do, the universe is yours.
And so 50 years from now, we could be well on our way to a world which has completely solved some of the problems we're grappling with now. And the question is, are we going to resort to magical thinking and to fear, or are we going to face these problems squarely and start applying our intelligence to our own survival and to a future much better than the present that we have? All I know is that when I was a kid, Neil referred to the 1964 World's Fair. The future was clean and everybody dressed in aluminum foil and they had great, flying cars and all those things. And I think what's very telling about popular culture in the last several decades is that there is no positive vision of the future. The future is always choking, disgusting, ruined, despoiled. And we don't have even a fantasy of what that future would be. One of the things in the new series that I'm really excited about is a vision of the future as it could be if we just have the will and the focus and the direction to do these things, to solve these problems. So I'm not going to tell us, I don't have the nerve or the intelligence to predict what we'd be doing in 50 years. But just look where we were 50 years ago and think what's possible. 44 years ago today, we walked on the moon for the first time. In order to be a scientist like Neil, you have to work very hard. You have to learn very complicated subjects deeply. But if we don't have a vision of the future to give to our kids, why should we expect them to want to put in all that effort? So, I think, dreams are maps. And if we have the right kind of dreams, 50 years from now, there's no telling where we could be.
If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. Thank you very much.
I would have been happy to stay at home and watch him do this. He's not with us, but that message has to continue to move forward. And without it, I see society regressing.
Which of Carl's books would you recommend? Which of the books that you worked on with Carl would you recommend as a kind of a gift to someone? If you were to give a gift to someone who wanted to get excited and get involved.
I think Cosmos is a great place to start. I also think Carl's book, The Demon-Haunted World, is a kind of error-correcting machine. It's amazing that he wrote that book when he was very ill. And, it just is such an inspiration because it's about science not only as a way of seeing everything, but as a baloney detection kit for knowing when you're being lied to, for giving you the power to evaluate the evidence. It really is a wonderful book. Carl's favorite book of any of the dozen or so books that he wrote, or the books that we wrote together, was a book we wrote together called Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. I'm really proud of that one. And I'm so proud that that was his favorite, because it was the adventure of being with Carl, of writing with him, of thinking with him, was certainly the signal honor of my whole life.
The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. Our contemplations of the cosmos stir us. There's a tingling in the spine, a catch in the voice, a faint sensation as if a distant memory of falling from a great height. We know we are approaching the grandest of mysteries.
And that's what Cosmos is about. What happens when your brain and your heart and your soul and your eye and your ear are all fully functioning. And so it's time to get going again.
Is there any chance of a big, pretty coffee table book? Maybe? I'll buy it.
There's a chance. There's a chance. And we'll see what happens. There is a good chance.